There are so many surprising things in the book, but the thing that surprised me the most.
It's a situation that I consider private.
You just feel like it ain't really nobody's business. Yeah. But now Black Twitter has claimed.
We thought we'd already heard every wild confession Hollywood's power couples had to offer until Jada Pinkett Smith dropped a bombshell that left the internet gasping. In what seemed like an offhand remark, she revealed that her husband, yes, the Fresh Prince himself, didn't just flirt outside the lines of marriage. According to Jada, Will explored romance on a completely different level, getting close with none other than entertainment giants Tyler Perry and Sean Diddy Combs. Just picture it, the velvet ropes guarding those sprawling megamen, suddenly snapping as the illusion of a perfect, squeaky clean family life crumbled right before our eyes. We watched our screens in stunned slow motion, jaws practically hitting the floor. This wasn't just another...
There have been some sexual assault claims made by him. It's a chap called Derek Dixon, and it's a $260 million lawsuit. And we say it's interesting because he is Lilibet's godfather. He revealed this on the Netflix show. He appeared as a character witness for Harry and Meghan in their
celebrity affair. It was a full-blown eruption, a volcanic confession ready to torch decades of perfectly staged red carpet smiles. We've all smiled at the endless stream of memes, Will and Jada side by side, grinning at red carpet premieres, whispering in gold-engraved award halls, broadcasting to the world a chemistry that felt unshakable, a modern-day fairy tale laced with wisdom, charisma, and just a dash of experimental freedom. But Jada's latest bombshell has us hitting rewind on that highlight reel, squinting into the shadows just outside every glowing spotlight. What truths were lurking behind the designer sunglasses, the color-coordinated Christmas family photos, the carefully worded talk show appearances that preached unconditional devotion? The answers, dear viewers, may not lie in those flower-filled Instagram captions, but in penthouse hallways scented with vanilla candles, echoing with mellow playlists handpicked by Diddy himself. When Jada appeared on The Breakfast Club, calmly brushing off former assistant brother Billow's claims as ridiculous and nonsense, we wanted to believe her. She declared, "We're going to take legal action." And yes, those were fighting words, but the slight quiver in her voice whispered something else entirely. Will's camp, almost instantly, echoed the threat of lawsuits, though ironically, rapid-fire denials are the gold standard of celebrity crisis playbooks. After all, whoever sues first controls the narrative the longest.
You know, there's a short life in
why do you think that is with the creative side?
Well, because losing out money, you got to take you're going through so much to try and deal with life.
And just like that, the first visible crack formed a fracture in their perfectly polished image, one we'd later trace all the way back to 2016, the quiet year when Will and Jada had already parked their marriage in separate driveways. So, we rewound through the glitz and the glamour, piecing together whispered clues that only now, in hindsight, seem glaringly obvious. Brother Billow wasn't subtle, a rare trait in a world stitched together with private jets and airtight He claimed to have caught Will in a tangled dressing room moment with actor Dwayne Martin, boldly declaring, "He knows what I saw in that dressing room." The imagery he conjured was explicit enough to make even hardened gossip veterans clutch their pearls. Hollywood tea collectors gasped, wondering aloud if that very moment had been the first breadcrumb leading to an entire network of bromantic escapades. And just when we thought the mystery couldn't spiral any deeper, the name Diddy roared back into the spotlight. Those infamous freak-off parties, once the punchline of late-night monologues, suddenly felt less like wild fantasy and more like orchestrated chaos. The rumors of all-white dress codes, choreographed pillow fights, roaming camera crews, and endless exotic snacks used to make us laugh. But then came the federal raids. Agents swept through Diddy's sprawling compounds, seizing party remnants, towers of scented oils, mountains of dimmed mood lights, and if whispers are to be believed, over 1,000 bottles of slippery accessories. That revelation chilled us. Were those glossy bottles silent witnesses to the industry's most guarded secrets, including, perhaps, one blockbuster-sized betrayal? Dishonest, violent, horrible, a promiscuous swinger who lied to and cheated on multiple partners. That, shockingly, is how Diddy's own legal team described him. As the billionaire now faces explosive trafficking charges in a New York courtroom. Digging through old photos, we spotted Will, relaxed and glowing at one of Diddy's legendary Hamptons soirees, his megawatt smile reflected in the faces of Bruce Willis and Diana Ross. Back then, we were only curious about who tailored his crisp linen shirt. Now we wonder if that grin concealed a volcanic thrill. Was that the very weekend he crossed a line that could never be uncrossed? Stepping out of marriage and into Diddy's after-hours labyrinth. You can almost hear the bass lines vibrating through manicured lawns, the whispers of megastars turning. Two silent nods by dawn as bodyguards ushered drained guests into waiting SUVs. Rumors of baby oil lakes and paid companionships floated through the grapevine. Suddenly, Jada's carefully restructured narrative began to feel strategic. She had taken the public heat for her entanglement with August Alsina, even branding herself with a digital scarlet letter on livestream, while Will sat beside her, silent and composed. Many assumed she was oversharing, selling books, or chasing redemption. But what if, as whispers now suggest, she was shielding Will all along, painting herself as the reckless one to draw attention away from scandals simmering just beneath his surface? By taking the fall, she gave him a clean pass through the lie detector test of public opinion, or at least bought him enough time for the headlines to change. And now, with legal implications emerging by the hour, we tread carefully, because this story isn't over. In fact, it might just be beginning. And then there's Tyler Perry, the billionaire mogul once celebrated as Hollywood's wholesome alternative. A clean-cut success story, immune to the chaos of excess. But now, the plot twists. Actor Derek Dixon's explosive lawsuit paints Perry not as a role model, but as a manipulator, allegedly turning career promises into bait and converting private trailers into audition rooms for something far more intimate than lines. Perry's team called the accusations a money grab. But the growing storm of whispers forced us to re-examine every behind-the-scenes selfie we once scrolled past. When exactly did Will and Tyler's bond begin? We remember the hugs on red carpets, the shared stories about family and faith, but sources now suggest their connection may have flickered into candlelit territory. Tyler, it's whispered, shifted from mentor to midnight confidant, allegedly, offering Will quiet escape routes from a marriage strained by scrutiny. And while skeptics question the timing of Derek Dixon's claims, the plaintiff's legal team points to therapy records dating back to 2020, potentially offering the kind of contemporaneous evidence that could shift the entire narrative. Behind the scenes, investigators have reportedly pored over private jet logs, finding that Will's flights and Diddy's Gulfstream often touched down minutes apart, close enough for a silent SUV transfer to whatever velvet-draped venue hosted the next elite rendezvous. Party calendars seemed to align with uncanny precision. Tyler's rap parties in Atlanta curiously syncing with Will's solo getaways. Coincidence? Possibly. But when coincidences stack like dominoes, patterns start to emerge. Let's not forget the Smiths have long spoken of a non-traditional union. Will once told GQ, "Marriage for us can't be a prison." On paper, liberating, but in reality, could that freedom have been the perfect smokescreen? A way to blur the boundaries, deflect suspicion, and keep the real stories submerged beneath tabloid noise. While the media fixated on Jada's entanglement with August Alsina, rumors of Will's alleged ties to powerful men floated quietly under the surface, like submarines in stealth mode. And we can't overlook the Diddy factor. Disturbing allegations suggest he hoarded incriminating tapes, footage of celebrity guests, caught in everything from hot tub horseplay to midnight acts to explicit to name. Federal documents hint that these recordings exist, locked away, ready to destroy reputations on command. If Will was ever caught, even once in that orbit, we're forced to wonder, was Jada's memoir a defensive play? A silent agreement that they'd protect one another's public images like nuclear codes, expose me, and I'll expose you. Maintain the facade, and we both keep cashing checks. Meanwhile, Brother Billow continues fanning the flames, vowing to release receipts if the lawsuits fall through. Was he bluffing, or does he truly possess damning stills? Photos of Will caught in mid-act, pants down, with no PR lifeline in sight. If those images leak, the fallout would be catastrophic. Studios shelving releases, streaming platforms purging catalogs, sponsors fleeing faster than they arrived. Even Tyler Perry's billion-dollar brand teeters on the edge. As a three-part docuseries titled Maxine's Monster looms, teasing witness testimonies that could drag him and Will out of their carefully guarded shadows. Jada's own public tone has shifted like a coded broadcast. One minute, she jokes about wild rumors. The next, she confesses to feeling abandoned, resenting Will, and taking blame that wasn't hers. To the untrained ear, it might sound like oversharing for attention, but to seasoned observers, it reads like strategy. Each interview a tactical pivot, recasting herself as either the protector or the martyr, depending on what best defends the family's empire. Just when we thought we'd traced every thread, more photos surfaced, one from a 2004 Miami bash, showing Will leaning in close to Diddy, neon wristbands glowing, laughter shared over a buffet served from the body of a model clad only in fruit. On its own, a snapshot of vintage excess, but in context, it's eerily familiar, matching federal agents' later descriptions of Wild King nights, complete with glow-in-the-dark body paint and rooms prepped with baby oil and Astroglide.ben. There was Diddy's infamous Oscars moment in 2022, publicly vowing to help solve it like family after Will's shocking onstage slap. Was that genuine brotherhood or a quiet reminder that secrets are best kept locked behind mansion gates? Did he know his friend was already unraveling under the pressure of hidden liaisons, any one of which could detonate on the world stage? The temperature dropped that night as rumors thickened like storm clouds. Now, even the Smith family's lavish estate, once called a sanctuary, is under the microscope. Reports claim it's separate wings, housed to entirely separate lives. Jada, running her podcast empire. Will, hosting so-called talent workshops that stretched late into the night. Employees signed NDAs thicker than novels. Some never saw the couple share a breakfast. Others were tasked with delivering imported candles and unscented oils to Will's private gym, not for fitness, allegedly, but for after-hours meditation. Was that elliptical machine really for cardio? Or just another well-placed prop in a carefully curated illusion? Let's be clear, Will Smith's charisma has always burned hot, a magnetic force strong enough to melt skepticism, dazzle critics, and charm generations. But sometimes, charisma is camouflage. Sometimes, the brightest glow lets a man vanish in plain sight. If even fragments of Tyler Perry's newly surfaced allegations prove accurate, if 2 a.m. phone calls, sudden script rewrites, or unplanned Atlanta reshoots were more than coincidence, then Jada's confession begins to look less like an admission and more like a flare for help. Tyler's camp calls it a shakedown, a cash grab, and yet the defense's standard line, "Why didn't you come forward earlier?" It begins to crumble under therapy records dating back to 2020. Meanwhile, investigators are sifting through a tangle of logistics. Private jet manifests showing Will's and Diddy's planes sharing runways within minutes. Enough time for a limo handoff and a discreet detour to another velvet-draped retreat. Calendars overlap suspiciously. Tyler's Atlanta studio wrap parties seem to align perfectly with Will's so-called solo retreats. How many coincidences make a pattern? And what if the Smiths' open marriage wasn't openness, but misdirection, a smokescreen crafted to keep our focus fixed on Jada's well-documented entanglements, while Will's private explorations sailed stealth beneath the radar? And then there's Diddy. Whispers of freak-off parties once dismissed as urban legends are now echoed in federal court documents. Locked doors, bagged phones, Wild King nights, complete with baby oil towers, antique mirrors, and blue-lit rooms where guests signed initials in scented oil. Were Will's initials ever there, glistening on the glass alongside Diddy's inner circle? Even Hollywood insiders, the ones who never talk, now mutter in valet lines and basement garages. They say the Smith brand may hinge on one hush, payment, or the strategic timing of another teary-eyed interview. Studios are already running cost-benefit analyses. One leak, one 30-second clip, and entire streaming libraries could disappear overnight. Sponsors are on edge. A single wrong headline in contracts with ironclad morals clauses may shatter like glass. Meanwhile, Jada's recent interviews land differently now. Her quote, "Life's too short to be in a pretend marriage," felt like a quirky soundbite. Today, it sounds like a coded confession. Pretend to whom, and for how long? With federal raids, hidden USBs, and lawsuits circling like vultures, we're left questioning, did Jada's memoir serve as insurance, a silent pact of mutual destruction? Expose me, and I'll expose you. Protect the story, and we both walk free. Even now, Billow promises receipts, maybe even surveillance stills, or worse. And if even one of those images makes it online, the fallout would be nuclear. Tyler Perry's empire hangs in the balance as a new docuseries, Maxine's Monster, threatens to peel back layers his team has spent decades polishing. And just when you think it's all hearsay, the photo resurfaces, Will in ivory linen, at Diddy's legendary white party. Diddy's arm draped casually across his shoulder. Tyler rumored to be on the guest list, but mysteriously absent from the frame. In isolation, it's just a celebrity snapshot. But in context, it's a freeze frame from the opening scene of a scandal. You can almost hear the beat drop, feel the whispers begin, just before the flashbulb fades. And if you rewind far enough to the late 90s, you'll find Will in New York studios, leaning over mixing boards with a young, hungry Puffy. Back then, it looked harmless. Two moguls, in the making, swapping dreams. Now, every detail looks different. Like a quiet handshake no one noticed until now. If the rumors hold even a kernel of truth, then the white party wasn't the start. It was just the first time we saw it, because long before the baby oil, the NDAs and the raids, there were subtle signals, 2 taps on the shoulder, a private smile, a message only those on the inside understood. And now that message is finally beginning to leak. She said he cornered her, raised his arm, and asked with unsettling calm, "How you doing?" Then, in one calculated motion, he ran his hand down her chest and whispered, "If you need anything at all, let me know." That moment, like a match struck in the dark, was just one of many from Diddy's infamous Miami extravaganza, which reached its luxurious and deeply unsettling peak just after sunset. There, amid a fruit buffet served on the bare skin of a palm leaf, hostess Will was reportedly spotted in the inner circle, flanked by Bruce Willis and a young Jennifer Lopez. Fireworks lit the Biscayne sky, juice fountains gushed, and yet in a secluded corner of the estate, the real event was unfolding. A velvet-troped lounge guarded with silence, phones confiscated, oil warmers glowing, mirrored walls watching every move. What will saw beyond that? Curtain remains unknown, but insiders swear he was never the same after the boyish charm dulled. The roles got riskier. Interviews grew more unfiltered. The man who once rejected racy scripts to protect his global image now flirted with edgier shadows, his orbit drawing closer to Diddy's secret world. Was it curiosity, brotherhood, or an unspoken handshake, a deal made in private that traded silence for protection? And what if that moment marked not just a pivot in his career but a permanent line crossed? Investigators now claim Diddy kept everything, not just memories, but receipts. They say his home studios were lined with surveillance gear, that each encounter was catalogued, filed, and rated not for artistry, but leverage. Some files reportedly bear only code names, like WSS, coincidence, or something more sinister. If footage exists, Will's silence may not be about shame. It could be legal survival. Meanwhile, Jada's moves start to look strategic. Her public confessions, her controlled oversharing, less about vulnerability, more about preemptive damage control. Better to drop your own scandal than let Diddy leak the one that sinks your legacy. And Tyler Perry's involvement only tightens the noose. With Derek Dixon's lawsuit alleging abuse of power and trust, and whispers that even Tyler may have recorded his own late-night mentoring sessions, some insiders believe that Diddy and Tyler shared more than clout. They shared content, footage, leverage, each man holding the other's lifeline like Cold War spies trading blackmail files. Suddenly, Will stands in the center of a triangle he can't escape. Diddy with Miami, Tyler with Atlanta, each potentially in possession of compromising material, and Jada, the one person who's always known more than she said, dropping revelations just loud enough to distract, just quiet enough to shield. Her memoir now reads like a smoke bomb, emotionally raw, yes, but also perfectly timed. Let's not forget, Will's most viral moment, the Oscars slap, came not long after whispers of Diddy's looming investigation. Was that rage spontaneous, or the snap of a man cornered by secrets too big to carry? We now circle back to Kid Cudi's burned-out car, a moment Ventura's lawsuit pins directly on Diddy's jealousy. If that was his reaction to flirtation, what would he do if Will, a megastar with receipts, tried to exit the circle? Attorneys whisper, offer cord. Everyone in Hollywood fears the hard drives. They're EMP-grade bargaining chips, the kind of files that don't just ruin reputations, they erase careers. So now, every velvet-draped party, every off-camera hug, every grainy clip locked in a vault isn't just gossip, it's evidence. Evidence of a game where the cost of saying no, or saying too much, could be the kind of silence that lasts forever. And that brings us to the chips, those now infamous hard drives. Because if they ever make it to an evidence locker, the question won't just be what's on them, but who was where, and when. Power brokers across Hollywood are already hedging their bets. Streaming giants are scrubbing deals quietly. Studios reviewing reshoot clauses that could erase Will from future ensemble casts. Sponsors freezing campaigns, and theme parks once eager to build family-friendly Smith attractions, now pausing. Fearing parental backlash and PR nightmares, in boardrooms from Burbank to London, legal teams comb through morality clauses, those tiny paragraphs buried deep in contracts that can vaporize 8-figure payouts if indecent conduct surfaces. Spreadsheets flicker, reputations dangle, and unverified file names become career death sentences. Even fans feel it. The tremor. Social media is in full-scale debate mode. Forgiveness versus accountability. Some argue Will may be a victim, manipulated by Diddy's alleged coercive tactics. Others say adulthood demands boundaries, and that Will, who spent decades preaching live your truth, now needs to own his. And what about Tyler Perry? Once the face of faith-forward inspiration, how does that brand survive allegations that now paint him not as a mentor, but as a manipulator? And as the public scrambles for new heroes, even government watchdogs smell blood. With RICO charges hovering around the entire bad boy orbit, prosecutors are likely to widen the net. Anyone appearing in those recordings could be pulled in, maybe not to prosecute, but to flip, which raises an even bigger question. What if Will becomes the star witness? A plea deal, with the Fresh Prince at the center, would rewrite legal and entertainment history. A megastar testifying to save himself, but doing so might also expose him to civil lawsuits, annihilate his brand, and torch the family-friendly image he spent 30 years polishing. And through all of this, Jada is calm. She's touring with her book, reciting spiritual mantras about healing and unconditional love. Critics say she overshares, but maybe oversharing is the armor. Separation, entanglement, resentment. She laid it all out first. Now, blackmailers have no leverage. She's already burned the castle. If Will goes down, she's already cast herself not as the accomplice, but as the truth-teller, the phoenix rising from the ashes she set herself. Cynical, yes, but brilliant crisis management. Absolutely, because now, the conversation is about Will's unseen secrets, not hers. We must consider the cultural quake this could trigger. Hollywood's survived scandals, sure, but this is Will Smith, not a tabloid villain. Not a shock value rapper. He was the face of millennial childhoods, syndicated sitcoms, action hero blockbusters. If he's dragged into a web involving baby oil stockpiles and surveillance-filled sex dens, it won't just destroy his legacy, it will fracture the very trust audience's place in Hollywood's wholesome facade. Award shows will turn awkward. Every standing ovation, side-eyed. Hosts will drop sanitized one-liners about white parties while teleprompters shake. Reporters will ask if intimacy coordinators now double as legal observers. And every celeb who dodges a Diddy question will wonder, are they truly uninvolved? Or just hiding something we haven't seen yet? This chill will ripple far beyond red carpets. It'll hit brand deals, talent agencies, even charities, philanthropic ventures once bankrolled by moguls now implicated in blackmail operations. So where does that leave the Smiths? If those blackmail tapes remain locked, maybe they survive it, holding tight to their image of unconventional but honest love. But if a single clip leaks, we could witness an unprecedented collapse. Productions halted, streaming libraries purged, the Academy convening emergency ethics panels. And looming in the shadows, Brother Bill still threatening to drop receipts. Maybe he's bluffing, maybe not. But in Hollywood, a single iMessage with a date stamp can take down 10 PR empires before breakfast. And remember, too many. Diddy was the mogul, the music kingmaker. His roster of superstars defined eras. So when fresh talent finally got a seat at the table, they didn't question the environment, they just said, I made it. But what if the price of admission was your silence? As federal agents cross-reference timestamps, as lawsuits inch toward discovery, as Diddy sits behind bars in Brooklyn, the industry holds its breath. Any moment now, a judge could unseal those drives. And if those file names leak, just cryptic enough to imply, just clear enough to destroy, the empire falls. So here's the question scorching every group chat right now. If Will Smith is, in fact, entangled in that hidden archive, does everything we believed about the charming, lovable Fresh Prince evaporate, or do we forgive a man swallowed by a system more powerful and darker than any of us imagined? Are we witnessing the fall of a global icon, or the messy beginning of a cautionary legend? We don't have the verdict yet. But as alerts flash from courtrooms, and as the next big leak inches closer, one thing's for sure,